Have you ever dreamed of packing your bags, grabbing your passport, and setting off on an adventure all by yourself? Maybe you've been thinking about visiting that charming little town in Italy you've always read about. Or perhaps you're drawn to the idea of exploring the serene landscapes of New Zealand. Solo travel can be incredibly rewarding. It's a chance to discover new places, meet new people, and even learn more about yourself. But let's be honest, as much as we love the idea of traveling solo, especially as we get older, there are some hidden dangers that we need to be aware of. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about today. Now, I know what you might be thinking. I've lived a full life. I've handled challenges before. Why should traveling alone be any different? And you're absolutely right. You've got the wisdom and experience to navigate life's ups and downs. But here's the thing. Solo travel, especially as a senior, comes with its own set of unique risks. The good news is, with a little preparation and some practical tips, you can avoid these pitfalls and enjoy your adventure to the fullest. So in this video, we're going to explore 7 hidden dangers of solo travel for seniors, and more importantly, how you can steer clear of them. Let's start with the first danger: health concerns while traveling alone. Now, this one might seem obvious, but it's worth talking about because it's so important. When you're traveling solo, you don't have a companion to rely on if something goes wrong. Maybe you're managing a chronic condition, or perhaps you're generally healthy but just a little more vulnerable than you were in your younger years. Either way, being away from your usual healthcare providers and support system can be a bit nerve-wracking. So what can you do to stay safe? First, make sure you have a thorough checkup before you leave. Talk to your doctor about your travel plans and get any necessary vaccinations or medications. It's also a good idea to carry a copy of your medical records, including a list of any medications you're taking, just in case you need to see a doctor while you're away. And don't forget to pack a well-stocked travel health kit with essentials like pain relievers, bandages, and any prescription medications you need. Finally, consider purchasing travel insurance that includes medical coverage. It might seem like an extra expense, but trust me, it's worth it for the peace of mind. Now let's move on to the second danger: getting lost or disoriented in an unfamiliar place. This one can be especially tricky because, let's face it, even the most experienced travelers can find themselves turned around in a new city. And when you're traveling alone, there's no one to help you figure out where you are or how to get back to your hotel. So how can you avoid this? First, do your homework before you go. Familiarize yourself with the layout of the city or town you'll be visiting. Look up maps and landmarks and make a note of the address and phone number of your accommodation. It's also a good idea to carry a physical map with you, just in case your phone dies or you can't get a signal. And speaking of phones, make sure yours is fully charged before you head out for the day, and consider bringing a portable charger. Another tip is to let someone know your plans for the day, whether it's the front desk at your hotel or a friend or family member back home. That way, if you do get lost, someone will know where to start looking for you. And that brings us to the third danger: loneliness and isolation. Now, this one might surprise you because, after all, solo travel is all about being on your own, right? But here's the thing: being alone doesn't have to mean feeling lonely. In fact, one of the great joys of solo travel is the opportunity to meet new people and make new connections. But it's also true that being in a foreign place, especially if you don't speak the language, can sometimes feel isolating. So how can you combat loneliness while traveling alone? One way is to stay in social accommodations, like hostels or bed and breakfasts, where you're more likely to meet other travelers. You can also join group tours or activities, which are a great way to see the sights and meet people at the same time. And don't be afraid to strike up a conversation with locals or other travelers. You might be surprised at how friendly people can be. Finally, make sure to stay connected with loved ones back home. A quick phone call or video chat can do wonders for your mood and help you feel less alone. Now that we've covered these first 3 dangers, health concerns, getting lost, and loneliness, let's take a moment to reflect. Traveling solo as a senior can be an incredible experience, but it's important to be aware of the potential risks and take steps to protect yourself. In the next part of this video, we'll dive into a few more hidden dangers and explore how you can avoid them. So stay tuned, and remember, with a little preparation and a positive attitude, you can enjoy the adventure of a lifetime. Now that we've talked about health concerns, getting lost, and the potential for loneliness, let's move on to the next hidden danger of solo travel for seniors: safety and security risks. This is a big one, and it's something we all think about when we're traveling, no matter our age. But as seniors, we might feel a bit more vulnerable, especially if we're in an unfamiliar place where we don't speak the language or understand the local customs. So how can you stay safe while traveling alone? First, it's important to do your research before you go. Look up the safety situation in the places you'll be visiting. Are there areas you should avoid? Are there common scams targeting tourists? Knowing what to expect can help you stay one step ahead. When you're out and about, try to blend in as much as possible. Avoid wearing flashy jewelry or carrying expensive equipment that might draw attention. Keep your belongings close to you, and consider using a money belt or a crossbody bag with a secure zipper. It's also a good idea to keep a copy of your passport and other important documents in a safe place, like your hotel room safe, and carry a photocopy with you. And trust your instincts. If something doesn't feel right, it's okay to walk away or ask for help. Another important aspect of safety is staying connected. Make sure someone back home knows your itinerary and check in with them regularly. If you're going off the beaten path, let someone know where you're headed and when you expect to be back. And don't be afraid to ask for help if you need it. Most people are happy to assist a traveler in need, whether it's giving directions or calling for help in an emergency. Remember, staying safe doesn't mean you have to miss out on the fun. It just means being a little more cautious and aware of your surroundings. Now let's talk about the fifth danger: transportation challenges. Getting around in a new place can be tricky, especially if you're not familiar with the local transportation system. And let's be honest, as we get older, we might not be as quick on our feet as we used to be, which can make navigating busy airports, train stations, or city streets a bit more challenging. So what can you do to make transportation easier? First, plan ahead. Research the transportation options in the places you'll be visiting. Are there reliable public transportation systems, or will you need to rely on taxis or ride shares? If you're renting a car, make sure you're comfortable driving in the area and familiar with the local traffic laws. It's also a good idea to give yourself plenty of time to get where you're going. Rushing can lead to mistakes, and it's always better to arrive a little early than to be stressed out and running late. And don't forget to consider your physical limitations. If walking long distances or standing for extended periods is difficult for you, look for accommodations and activities that are close to public transportation or offer shuttle services. Many cities also offer senior discounts on public transportation, so be sure to ask about that when you're planning your trip. Finally, let's talk about the sixth danger: language barriers. This one can be particularly challenging, especially if you're traveling to a country where you don't speak the language. Not being able to communicate effectively can make everything from ordering food to asking for directions more difficult, and it can also leave you feeling isolated and frustrated. But don't worry, there are plenty of ways to overcome language barriers and make your trip more enjoyable. First, consider learning a few basic phrases in the local language before you go. Even just knowing how to say hello, thank you, and where is the bathroom can go a long way. There are plenty of language apps and phrase books that can help you get started. When you're out and about, don't be afraid to use gestures or point to things if you're having trouble communicating. Most people are patient and willing to help, even if you don't speak the same language. And if all else fails, consider using a translation app on your phone. These apps can be a lifesaver when you're trying to have a conversation or read a menu. Just make sure to download the language pack before you go, in case you don't have access to Wi-Fi or data while you're traveling. Now that we've covered safety and security, transportation challenges, and language barriers, let's take a moment to reflect. Traveling solo as a senior can be an incredible adventure, but it's important to be aware of the potential risks and take steps to protect yourself. In the next part of this video, we'll dive into the final hidden danger and explore how you can avoid it. So stay tuned, and remember, with a little preparation and a positive attitude, you can enjoy the adventure of a lifetime. Final points in conclusion: welcome back. We've covered a lot of ground so far, from health concerns and getting lost to loneliness, safety, transportation challenges, and language barriers. Now let's dive into the seventh and final hidden danger of solo travel for seniors: financial risks and scams. This one is particularly important because, let's face it, no one wants to deal with money troubles or fall victim to a scam while they're trying to enjoy their trip. But the good news is, with a little awareness and preparation, you can protect yourself and your finances. First, let's talk about financial risks. When you're traveling alone, you're solely responsible for managing your money, and that can be a bit overwhelming, especially if you're in a foreign country with a different currency. So what can you do to stay on top of your finances? Start by creating a budget for your trip. Figure out how much you're willing to spend on accommodations, food, transportation, and activities, and stick to it as much as possible. It's also a good idea to carry a mix of payment methods like cash, credit cards, and a debit card. That way, if one method doesn't work, you'll have a backup. Just make sure to notify your bank and credit card companies before you travel so they don't flag your transactions as suspicious and freeze your accounts. And when it comes to cash, only carry what you need for the day and keep the rest in a secure place like your hotel room safe. Now let's talk about scams. Unfortunately, tourists are often targeted by scammers, and seniors can be particularly vulnerable. But don't worry, there are plenty of ways to protect yourself. First, be aware of common scams in the area you're visiting. For example, in some places, taxi drivers might try to overcharge you or take you on a longer route to run up the fare. In other places, you might encounter people trying to sell you fake tickets or overpriced souvenirs. The key is to stay alert and trust your instincts. If something seems too good to be true, it probably is. And don't be afraid to say no or walk away if you feel uncomfortable. It's also a good idea to keep your valuables out of sight and avoid flashing large amounts of cash in public. Remember, it's better to be cautious than to fall victim to a scam. So there you have it, the 7 hidden dangers of solo travel for seniors and how to avoid them. Let's do a quick recap. We talked about health concerns, getting lost, loneliness, safety and security risks, transportation challenges, language barriers, and financial risks and scams. Each of these dangers can be managed with a little preparation and awareness, allowing you to focus on enjoying your trip and making unforgettable memories. Now, I want to leave you with a final thought. Traveling solo as a senior can be one of the most rewarding experiences of your life. It's a chance to explore new places, meet new people, and discover new things about yourself. Yes, there are risks, but with the right mindset and a bit of planning, you can navigate them and have the adventure of a lifetime. So don't let fear hold you back. Take the leap, pack your bags, and set off on that journey you've always dreamed of. And remember, you're never too old to explore the world. Before we wrap up, I'd love to hear from you. Have you traveled solo as a senior? What tips or experiences would you like to share? Let's start a conversation in the comments below. And if you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel for more tips and advice on living your best life at any age.